This is the Ohio AgNet from the Voice You Know with the News You Trust Studios, sponsored by BASF. Visit with your local ag retailer about 0% financing on all BASF crop protection, seed treatment, and Satavo brand soybeans now through March 15th. I'm Ty Higgins. Powered by soy biodiesel, our next monthly check-in at Farm Credit Mid-America going to be tomorrow. Tune in as we discuss the 2026 patronage coming to Farm Credit Mid-America customer owners. Then tune into the Ohio AgNet coming up on Thursday. Going to broadcast from the Wilmington College Aggies 68th Annual Judging Contest, where 1,500 high school students will be honing their judging skills. New and now at OhioAgNet.com, the latest Ohio AgNet podcast. Commodity Classic, the largest farmer-led, farmer-focused ag convention and trade show, was held in San Antonio last week. I was there along with Ohio AgNet's Dusty Sonnenberg and Joe Everett to cover the major topics and challenges facing farmers today. We had the opportunity to visit with leaders of Ohio Corn and Wheat, Ohio Soybean Association, and Ohio Small Grains Council. I caught up with Tad Nicholson, Executive Director of Ohio Corn and Wheat, to talk about one of the biggest topics of the week, and that's year-round E15.
We've got to have some sort of a win. E15 year-round is the one thing Congress could do very easily, and we're just telling them it's time to do it.
Farmers need more than just that win, although they would be very, very helpful for sure. But USMCA also on the minds of farmers as they get into a new year of planting and marketing. What are we hoping for as far as that goes? Because quite honestly, the rhetoric from the administration is not real positive on USMCA right now.
No, but when 40% of all the corn exported goes to Mexico and 40% of all the ethanol exported goes to Canada, that agreement is incredibly important to us. It's one that we will fall on the sword on. So it is all hands on deck with USMCA. Get this thing renewed and do no harm to it.
Of course, all this happening with the Secretary of Agriculture coming here to San Antonio to Commodity Classic, and I have a feeling she'll get the message loud and clear.
Well, Jed and some of the leaders are going to have some one-on-one time with her, and you bet that's going to be on their mind to represent American farmers by telling them what we need, and that's what their job is.
How important is it for events like this to happen to get everyone that seemingly is on the same page actually on the same page, not just policy-wise, but also with the way the industry is moving forward? Well,
you know, when we're 1% of the population trying to talk together, it's very important not to fragment that 1%. It's got to be in a uniform message. And when we're representing the Midwest, which is losing congressional members, they're going to the coast and down south. It's very important for us to get every single congressional member that cares about corn understanding what we're serious about. And these are the things that when we come here together, it's the time to get our message synced up.
Joe Everett talked with Owen Neese. He's on the Ohio Small Grains Council board. They covered what was up for discussion there on the wheat side of things.
I just got done actually sitting down with our National Association of Wheat Growers' new CEO, talked about, some policy stuff, and certainly tariffs is the biggest thing, but we talk a lot about our crop protection tools on the wheat side, and that's the fungicides, insecticides, and some of the herbicides. So that's kind of the big thing we're focused on right now.
You can hear the full Ohio AgNet podcast online now at OhioAgNet.com. There's also a video version on our Facebook and YouTube channels as well. Let's get a check of the forecast, brought to you by Seed Consultants, Simply Better Performance, online at seedconsultants.com. Here's Ryan Martin.
Today, we've got a system passing by mostly to the south. This thing originated in eastern Kansas, Missouri overnight last night, passing through the Ohio and Tennessee valleys today. We'll see some clouds from that in southern Ohio, but I don't think any significant moisture at this point. The rest of us will see a mix of clouds and sunshine. A little moisture trying to lift north from the remains of that system overnight tonight. A few hundreds to a few tenths, but that's just priming the atmosphere for what's going to start tomorrow afternoon and go right on through the rest of the week. We've got multiple waves of moisture headed at us. I think it's best to look at this as a 5-day total. So from tomorrow afternoon through Sunday, I think we are easily penciling anywhere from 1 to 3 inches, and there will be some areas, central and southern parts of the state, that could be pushing 4 or 5 by the time we are done. I'm Ryan Martin.
Ryan, thank you. There's no business like showgoat business, and OSU's ATI campus in Worcester is getting involved in a big way. Joel Panorwood has more.
A hidden gem at The Ohio State University's Agricultural Technical Institute, the Small Ruminant Research Center. Our own Brianna Smith recently caught up with Greg Fogel, manager of the center, about how their work in raising animals such as show goats is benefiting students today.
The goals of the goat herd with our unit at ATI and Worcester is to provide goats for teaching and extension. through activities with classes, learning laboratories, hands-on experiences for students, as well as extension and outreach activities. We raise goats for exhibition for youth exhibitors and kids for 4-H and FFA projects. We sell those mainly through live sales and online sales, sometimes private treaty. They would buy the goats at a weaned age, when we'd sell those usually at 60 to 90 days of age.
At the end of the day, though, it's all about learning, says Fogel.
Our goals with the goats are to bring students in through Ohio State, whether it be Columbus campus or ATI, and if we can provide those animals for the classes of introductory animal science, animal handling, small ruminant production. If we can get a kid that's shown goats in 4-H and maybe we want to teach them an avenue they can go down in terms of production and husbandry, that we can provide an animal that they can use to benefit from and learn from.
Take a look at the operation yourself online today at ohioagnet.com. It's our featured video taking a look at the Small Ruminant Research Center up at OSU ATI. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Joel Nortwood reporting.
Thank you, Joel. The Ohio AgNet continues next.
Ohio farmers are excited about the approval of Striax dicamba herbicide for in-crop soybean use. For a limited time, B&B AgVantages in Conover, Ohio, are reopening cash discounts and financing on Asgrow soybeans. This is a fantastic opportunity to return to the proven yield performance of Asgrow soybeans and the strong weed control system of the XtendFlex system. Orders must be placed and paid for by March 13th. Contact B&B AgVantages for details at 937-368-3880.
Every bushel you grow needs a market. That's why the Ohio Soybean Council is working to expand demand for Ohio soybeans around the world. Your checkoff supports international outreach, trade team visits, and putting Ohio soy in front of global buyers. By showcasing the quality, reliability, and value of Ohio soybeans, you can count on new opportunities and increased demand today and into the future. Visit soyohio.org to see all the ways your Ohio soybean checkoff is at work, expanding markets for your beans.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. Farmers preparing for the 2026 growing season. With some expert analysis on weed control, here's Dusty Sonnenberg and today's featured audio.
Joining me today is Chad Thriewitz. Chad is an agronomic services representative with Syngenta. Chad, I want to take a look back as we are at the beginning of 2026 to 2025, and some of the different challenges we faced may be unique to other years, but a lot of good lessons learned. As you've talked to growers around the state, what were some of those lessons, things they're going to take into this coming year that they got from last year?
I think the one thing that keeps coming up with me is just how variable the year was. So the lack of consistency, whether it was when things were planted across the state and how that affected the growing season, how it affected weed control, even fertilizer usage as growers looked at, they just had a lot of water early and how to manage that. As we look at that now, growers are trying to decide with the higher fertilizer prices and things going on, where do I spend those dollars? How do I set that budget up for next year?
Inputs obviously have folks' attention because we aren't really capitalizing highly on what we can get from the market. So we need to look at both sides of the equation. How can we market more efficiently, but also how can we manage those inputs? Another factor was the weather. We really started off the year with a split planting season across much of the state. What do you hear from guys as far as they're looking at that? Are they going to push the envelope this year if it's fit, or are they going to wait?
In the corn crop, I think that the early planting still pays. I've heard a lot of growers say on soybeans, I'm going to push the envelope. That was a big deal last year. Corn still is right there too. So, having the ability to maybe plant both crops, as early as possible. But again, every year is different, right? And it could be that year that, we still need to go when the ground's fit and when things are possible, right? And the weeds took advantage of that as well. And that's one thing we saw, depending on when herbicides, some folks, went ahead and sprayed, and then it might have been 40 or 45 days before they got back in the plant. And really, we ran out of residual in a lot of cases and had a lot of weed control issues in those later planted fields.
That does seem to be the one thing that is consistent year in, year out, as these weeds get to be more and more challenging. And we've got some different tools in the toolbox to use. What are some of those tools you like to lean on from Syngenta?
Yeah, I've probably had, the last couple of years, even as many calls in corn as I've had soybeans when it comes to, problems like water hemp, giant ragweed, and really to help manage that, we just had to lean on products that give us more residual, more modes of action and more efficacy. So something like that would be Acuron herbicide. It has 3 modes of action, 4 active ingredients. Really gives us that best opportunity to control weeds season long. So as we talk, we're trying to protect the plants from other, weed, using up the light, water, nutrients, and that product gives us a very good opportunity for either one pass season long control, or as these weeds get harder to control, looking at what it takes with a really solid 2-pass program to maximize that residual all season long. Really,
timing is always something that seems to be a part of the discussion when folks look at weed control. Several years ago, you wanted the weeds to get to a certain height before you really went after them, and all too often that's when they got too big and got away. What are your thoughts on getting out there early?
Yeah, and I think that really we need something that provides enough residual on the early side of things, our first pass, to make sure that we're not going after weeds, and when we come in on that post side that they're too big. And a lot of times that's 21 to 28 days, and that's really a change practices that many growers we're just not used to here in Ohio. As I talk to my counterparts in Illinois, if the weeds are up, they just say you can't kill it. And that's really a change from what we've been used to. As you mentioned, when they get to a certain size, and that's when you go and spray the post. Really having a planned trip where you go out and spray no matter what size the weeds are, overlay that residual. A lot of times that's maybe 6 to 8 inch tall corn in Ohio, and that doesn't always align with the availability, for sprayers and that going on. But that's really what it's going to take, I think, going forward to have the the cleanest fields.
Well, they say try and start clean and stay clean, and that gets you out of a lot of trouble. Another thing I'd heard talk in the past of is guys trying to cut rates or use reduced rates, and especially with input costs high. But with some of these weeds, that can get us in trouble. Talk a little bit about the importance of the labeled rates.
Yeah, 20 years ago that was the way to go, right? You reduced a rate and you came in and cleaned everything up with glyphosate, and life was good. And those days are, as are long gone. And it really takes everything that we can do. And in that one of those things is using the maximum rate that's possible and multiple modes of action with those maximum rates to be able to manage, especially problems like water hemp. Because once that weed goes to seed, and that's probably a lot of what I'm seeing is we're getting more weeds go to seed in corn and then showing up in soybeans. That rotation just isn't helping us like it used to.
Well, the weeds, the one guarantee we probably have this year, they will be back out there, but nice to know there are some tools in the toolbox, Acuron herbicide being one of those. Chad, if folks want to learn more about the product or have other questions, what's a good way?
Contact your local Syngenta retailer or visit acuron-herbicide.com.
Again, my guest today has been Chad Thriewitz. He's an agronomic service representative with Syngenta. Chad, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Dusty.
Right back with markets and analysis next on the Ohio AgNet.
Whether you're in the fields or on the farm, creating a safer work environment has never been easier. BWC's safety consulting services are included with your policy premiums and offer training and education for everyone in your farming operation. It's always the right time to make safety a priority. Visit bwc.ohio.gov or call 1-800-644-6292. The Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, here to help you work safely.
Today's market analysis on the Ohio AgNet brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company, excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC by calling 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
The end of the month brought out some very interesting ideas in the marketplace on Friday. As we take a look at the ending numbers, pretty much all parts of the market got positive. We saw wheat leading the charge overall, but I think the main sentiment on Friday was short covering. Trade with the Board of Trade was mixed to mostly higher on Friday. Everybody getting into positive territory by the end of the day. U.S. wholesale prices for January were starting to hint at stagflation. The stock market fell sharply on Japanese wholesale, or rather January wholesale price index. U.S. interest rates are easing on worsening job outlooks, but the fly in the ointment is all of this hubbub over the attacks on Iran out of the U.S. and Israel. That is going to create, I think, a large outpouring of uncertainty. We'll see it first in energy, then stocks, but probably in commodities as well at some point today. We will see. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Ryan. Markets Overnight brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. March corn down 3 cents at $4.35 3/4. May $4.47 1/2 and down by a penny. Soybeans for March down 2.5 at 11.64 3/4. May down a penny at 11.69 3/4, and wheat for July down 3.25 at 5.95 1/2. After Friday's trade, live cattle for April down 4.67 at 232.22. April feeders 351.20 down 7.55, and lean hogs for April no change 95.72 after Friday's trade. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Ty Higgins reporting. We'll see you down the road.